Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Alright,
Thank you for joining us here at the R2F Return to Fitra show. For our new viewers, we are the Return to Fitra channel where we talk about all types of topics relating to spiritual abuse, sectarianism, deviancy, cult abuse uh, that we deal with in the Ummah. And as our name suggests, we try our best to help Muslims return to the fitra and stay on the true and straight path of Islam. Uh, Thank you for joining us this week. For we have, of course, uh, a trending topic, unfortunately, that's popped up in social media and all the different media outlets of the Muhammad Hijab situation. And we're going to get into the details of that, but I just wanted to explain how this topic fits in exactly with what the type of stuff that we actually cover on our channel. A lot of our content has been directed at dealing with cults in Islam, in the Ummah. And if you know how cults operates, how they start, how they function, and how they abuse people, is directly related to how people that have either fame, influence, power, whatever you want to call it, whether they're, scholars, um, pretend to be scholars, these da'is, these YouTube famous sheikhs or speakers or callers to Islam, they all wield the same type of power that they can use for good or use for bad. And unfortunately, because especially living in the West, there's no checks and balances, there's no Islamic authority to actually deal with people that abuse their power, that abuse their positions of either authority or fame. It happens, right? And unfortunately, there's victims, like we'll get into with this situation, that there's no way for them to satisfy or rectify the issues that they have at the hands of their abusers. Um, for instance, for those of you who don't know, we are we we are former members of a cult. So we are quote unquote victims of spiritual abuse in some form or matter, right? Whether it's being misguided from the true Islam or whether it be financial abuse. We've had guests on our show that have been victims of sexual abuse, um, uh, child abuse, all types of abuses that happen under the guise of, you know, people think they're following or connecting themselves to some personality, right? And you can kind of break it down to like what we suffer as Muslims, especially in the West, as we see, because that's the context we live in, is that we're falling victim to this whole phenomenon of personality worship, right? Um, but what happens is people get Muslims become victims of spiritual abuse, where these abusers, these bad actors, are using Islam in some shape or form to basically satisfy their whims and desires. And the people caught in the wake of this have no recourse to get justice. And the reason why we have this channel, the reason why we do the content is because what usually happens and is that the victims associate the abuse they went through, associate the transgressions that they experienced, not with the individual that did it, but with Islam itself, right? And we see it all the time. Even if you're just even if someone's just a wife or new shahada that got married and this Muslim guy just used and abused her and tossed her to the side, then what's the natural course of thinking? Oh, this is how Muslims are. This is what Islam allows people to do. Because when I went to the imam, or I went to the masjid, or I went to, talk publicly, no one helped me. No one, I didn't get any justice. So this is what Islam represents. And people leave Islam. So our channel's here to help educate people, right? To bring awareness to these issues that come up so that one, if you're a victim, you're not alone. Two, that this is not how Islam operates, right? This is not what Islam is about. and the transgression, the oppression, the abuse that you suffered, that we all have suffered, is due to those individuals and not to Islam. It's due to shaitan. It's due to their whims and desires, their nafs. It's due to those oppressors and not Islam, right? You'll see this time and time again throughout the Ummah, where people use Islam, their power, whatever they have, to abuse people. So when we get into the situation, and we'll get into it right now, when we get into the situation and talk more about it, think about it in those contexts of how we can bring awareness to these issues and help protect our brothers and sisters in Islam from those abuses, from those transgressions, and also staying on the true path of Islam. So just some logistical things before we get started. If you have any questions, type them in the chat. We'll get to the questions as best as we can. If you need to contact us about anything that you're dealing with or that you know of, whether you want to, because one of the things that we do is we do interviews with individuals to talk about their experiences, right? Contact us. You can email us at emailr2f@gmail.com, and we'll respond and we'll deal with your situation. So with that, we're going to get right into this whole Muhammad Hijab scandal. But the first thing that I want to do before we get into it is I want to play a clip real quick. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, I got it.
Let me see. Share my screen. Where's that? So I'm going to share my screen. Let's make this big screen. Let's share the screen. Okay. And this is just a clip, because if people have been, our followers that have been paying attention to what we've been saying, we called this already. We said this was going to, more and more, this is going to come out. I don't know, 6 months ago this came out. We talked about this, but I'm going to play the clip, right? So let me share. Okay, we got sound. Okay, here we go. So here we go. Let me play the clip.
There's no question that we do not approve of secret marriages. This is not ethical, and it is not befitting. It's not something that is good. But suppose somebody, you find out they have a secret marriage, meaning all of the conditions have been met. Two adults, consenting adults. We're not talking about, astaghfirullah, we talk children is nothing. We're talking about baligh adults. They're both aware what's going on. All the conditions have been met. The mahr has been given, the shurut, whatnot. This is an awkward question, and I'm sorry to be blunt, but you guys need to think about this, because I don't have an answer to this. What if you do come across a secret marriage? Is this a sin that needs to be exposed? Is
that came out?
I was wondering what happened because it said my jump was complete. I'm like, huh? What? Huh?
Okay. All right, so we're back. Sorry about that, people. We hit the wrong button and disconnect for a second. But as I was saying, Yasir Qadhi released this video months ago in regards to a situation that had nothing to do with secret marriages. Then out of the blue, he starts talking about secret marriages. And we said when that video was released that was clear indication that Yasir Qadhi knows about a bunch of secret marriages and has kept them secret. Now, fast forward to today, we have a giant scandal blown up online with a well-known da'i, Muhammad Hijab, who has millions of followers, and him being accused of being involved in a secret marriage, and it's all blowing up online. So with that, I'll turn over to my guys. I'm going to take care of some logistical stuff.
Okay. Yeah, the thing is, at the time, and I believe that was October of 2024, at the time we were saying, when we first listened to the Yasir Qadhi lecture, in which he was referring to the Wissam Sharif thing, but he never named him. It was almost like we're talking about him, but we don't want to get too close. The thing is, we thought it was strange that a few things that he mentioned, basically, and Jafar did a good video now about how, it seemed like he was more so trying to protect the institution as opposed to, protecting the victims. But we thought it was a little bit out of place at the time that he kind of, mentioned secret marriages, how though they might be taboo, they're legal Islamically, and we really shouldn't make a big deal about it. It's not something that should be blown up or brought to light or exposing the people per se, because they're halal between two consenting adults, basically. So at that time, we basically like there are probably quite a few of these that are happening just based on how he came out of the blue to run some interference and to kind of do some crowd control with that, because it's one of the theories out there, and it seems plausible from the video from the Wissam Sharif thing, is that the adult lady that was involved was a woman that he possibly had was in his nikah, so he had a secret marriage with her. So I think that's why it came out. But so fast forward to now, because we were saying before that probably these things are going to start snowballing. These things are going to start coming out, and so here we are with a pretty famous guy who is involved in allegedly a secret marriage.
Yep.
And to piggyback off of that real quick, is just that these very smart shayuk or speakers, whatever, they're not having Freudian slips. It's not just an accident. So he's speaking about this for a reason to get out in front of these things, right? We come from, in the Black community, like the world of sports. So if there's a scandal happening in a university or a college or a high school, typically they get out in front of it first. They start talking about, everyone kind of deserves to get paid in high school and college before we had the NIL. So this is how things work out. You try to get in front of it before it happens. And really, it wasn't common knowledge. That's why it's a secret marriage. So Yasser Qadi, he jumped the gun, said, listen, I'm going to be the first one to say, listen, I may have possibly heard of someone doing this, but listen, they got married and they had a wali and witnesses. So what can I do? It's a way to save face.
Exactly. And just to give a little, I'm pretty sure everybody kind of knows what's going on, but we're going to summarize the situation with Muhammad Hijab very quickly. You can go find the videos yourselves. You can go to Behind Veils or Behind the Veils, behindveils.com. They have a wonderful source of information on the case. You can see the responses from Muhammad Hijab's AI public defender, I guess, and his best friend, one of his friends, Ali Dawa. You can see all his responses. But in a nutshell, and I don't want to get into the details, and I don't want to do disservice to the situation, but from our assessment, this is pretty much what we can gather, what allegedly happened from the evidence that has been presented by both sides. Sister May Aisha pretty much initiated and started courting Muhammad Hijab. Okay, in a subtle way, saying, I'm looking for a husband, and pretty much that husband I'm looking for fits your description, right? Okay. And for anybody that's been involved in this, like, we're not famous, but I guess if anybody that's been involved with dealing with community, and a man, especially men, you've experienced this type of thing. Like, okay, girl, I get what you're saying. Muhammad Hijab, I hope he doesn't seem like an idiot to me. So she was pretty much presenting herself to be married, hopefully, it seems like in her hopes, to Muhammad Hijab. And to make herself more marketable to Muhammad Hijab, she did present like, I could forego some of my rights. We can keep it secret from your wife until like things work out. So whatever. At some point, Muhammad Hijab took her up on that offer, and they got married. Now, the biggest issue that I think everybody's kind of ignoring is that the real disagreement is between the expectations of whatever Muhammad Hijab was getting out of that marriage versus what Aisha, right, the lady he married, was getting out of the situation. Okay, so that's a gray area. They have both sides, but pretty much they got married, and the end of it was that they got married over Zoom. Muhammad Hijab didn't show his face. They got random witnesses. Her wali wasn't included. Some random witnesses, some random imam conducted the wedding over Zoom. They got married. Eventually, they met up in a hotel to consummate the marriage. Muhammad Hijab's expectations in the marriage was, this is all we're going to do is ever just meet up in a hotel and just hook up for a few hours. And you go your way, I go my way. And we're just going to keep this secret. I'm not going to tell my wife. You're not going to tell anybody, right? She wasn't put up for that. She asked for a divorce. He gave her a divorce. And she afterwards tried to get rectification for her situation, or someone to, make a fatwa, basically someone to make a judgment on the case. No one helped her. And then she pretty much said, I'm going to expose him. And that's kind of like where we're at right now. And I don't know if you guys wanted to add anything, if I missed anything.
The first thing I would say is for people who are just wondering, number one, did Muhammad Hijab allegedly do anything wrong Islamically? Because that's the first thing we have to deal with. Islamically, did he do anything wrong? In getting married, from what it looks like, and I looked at all the different evidences, lots of videos on it. I looked at everything that was out there, even to the point where even they have the lady's father, Bushra, which was her actual name. I mean, her name is out there. Her name is Bushra. Actually, it's not Aisha, but yeah, that's what she went by. But her father actually giving permission to use a stand-in for him as the representative. So Islamically, it looks like that all the requirements were fulfilled by Muhammad Hijab and Aisha, and Bushra, the young lady. Okay, so Islamically, the marriage is valid. Islamically, there's no issue with someone waiving some or all of their rights in order to get married to the person that they want, either increasing the things that they're asked for or decreasing or whatever it may be. So everything looks like from a Islamic perspective, the marriage conducted was sufficient for it making it legal for them to be together. Yeah. Now the issue is, the dispute is what after the marriage is conducted takes place, what the situation was going to be. And so even when you go forward, what happened? They had a dispute about the time and how they were going to be within the marriage, and then the marriage ended.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like, even looking at these two people, even like looking at Muhammad Hijab, even if the young lady Bushra is saying, he promised me this, he did not deliver, so the marriage ended. So from that perspective, that's what's supposed to happen. Basically, if you get into a marriage, you have an agreement, and one side does not fulfill the agreement, then you have the right to exit that marriage. And she did. Yeah. So from that perspective, Muhammad Hijab, it could be a he said, she said about what happened. But as far as the marriage taking place and the marriage ending, I mean, it's not uncommon for people to disagree after they get married and then separate, and so that's what happened.
Let me ask you a quick question, though, real quick, because you see in the comments that a lot of people are confused about what a misyar marriage is, and is it permissible? And you see a lot of, whether it's Islamophobes or Shiites, saying it's the same thing as a muta marriage. Yeah. So can you shed some light on what a misyar is, whether it's permissible according to Sunni Islam, and how it differs from what a muta or a temporary marriage is?
So misyar marriage is just a person, the man or the woman, but usually it's the woman, basically, is going to waive or forego some of their rights. Like the woman has rights to maintenance. That means expenditure. He has to spend on her and take care of her food, clothing, shelter, protection, security, transportation, or basically everything that she needs to live her life. He's responsible for it as a standard. If she waives some of that, just say, as far as, okay, you have another wife, I don't really need you to come every other night, but you can come every weekend. That would be an example of a misyar marriage in which she waives some. Sometimes it's all. And so, and even you can look at from the man's perspective. A lot of people don't think about this, but for instance, if a man wants to marry a woman and he says, or she says, I don't want you to get another wife. And he agrees to that. He is foregoing some of his rights in order to do the marriage. So that's another way that people don't really look at from the man's side, but that's that's common in a marriage where someone might forego some or all of certain rights in order to get married to the person that they want to.
Yep. Now how, and this could be, how does it compare to what, because, and the reason why it's getting mixed up is because Muhammad Hijab and Bushra we'll say allegedly did a misyar marriage, right? This was the controversy. So let's say they did. The confusion comes in where people are comparing it to a muta, a temporary marriage, because the marriage ended very shortly after they got married. So they're like, oh, misyar is the same as a muta. So like, what is exactly a muta marriage? And how does it differ from like a misyar?
The muta marriage is before you even get married, you have a time limit set on it. 3 days, 7 days, or whatever. And part of the contract is, hey, if you give me $7,000, I will remain married to you and do my marital duties with you and for you for 7 months or whatever it might be, or 7 days or 24 hours or whatever it might be, or 3 hours. Yep. That's a mutar marriage. Basically, it's prostitution. Right. And so a mutar marriage is haram because for it to be a legit Islamic marriage, you cannot have it set to where, at this date or time, we're no longer going to be married. This is haram. You're not allowed to do that. So for this marriage, the misyar marriage is there's no time limit on it. We're going to be like this forever. Yeah. But of course you can get out of it if you get into the marriage and for some reason you're like, oh, this is too much for me. I don't like it. I can't do it. Or some situation changes. Or as she's saying, what she expected or what she thought she was promised didn't come through, and then you can get out of the marriage. Yeah. So but I think what people are mistaking is they're thinking misyar marriage means secret marriage.
Oh yeah, that too.
And a secret marriage is not. It is.
Let's first define a secret marriage, because you see, like, there's a good point you brought up. People are mistaking those two, but everybody has a different concept of what an actual secret marriage is, right? They're using it to describe a bunch of different things where some of the things they're describing isn't technically a secret marriage. So let's define what a secret marriage is first, right? So we'll first start with Muhammad Hijab situation where they got married. Let's just assume this, like, based off from what we could assume is that they got married with the agreement that they would keep it secret from his wife, his first wife. Now, is that a secret marriage?
No, that's not a secret marriage, but it's a foolish one. Right. It's a foolish one, but it's not a secret marriage. So him not telling the world about his marriage, I mean, like, he doesn't necessarily have to. It's plenty of people. Even there's a hadith about where Rasulullah was asking one of his companions, hey, you got some makeup or whatever on your face or whatever. What? He said, oh, I got married. So Rasulullah is being informed after the fact that he got married. So it's not like everyone is going to know. If a person was going to tell anyone first and foremost about them getting married, it would be one of the Sahabas would tell Rasulullah. So there's certain people that you don't necessarily have to tell, but you do have to make it known that you are married to so-and-so for multiple reasons. If you're seen together, if the woman becomes pregnant, let me think about that. She becomes pregnant, and then all of a sudden, her stomach is out to here, and what she's supposed to say? Yeah, I'm married to her brother, but he's just she's just stutters and sputters. So the thing is, a marriage being secret, it has to do with protecting your lineage for the woman and the man, for those family members, the people involved. It has to do with protecting your honor. It has to do with also protecting the lady. What if some other man thinks that she's still single or whatever, and he's whatever he's asking about her or whatever, he might be cutting her grass and doing all types of extra stuff, just get on her good side. He's wasting his time. So there's a lot of things that are involved, but to have a marriage with the four things that you need. You need a bride, you need a groom, you need witnesses, and you need the wali. If you have those four, then the marriage is valid. But to then, if someone,
I want to add real quick on this point, because there's also, depending on which school of thought you find, that's the bare minimum, and even that technically isn't the bare minimum, depending on which school of thought you go with, because the Hanafi scholars have like a different opinion, like you actually don't need a wali, or you need one, but it's still valid. So like there's that point as well. But there's also, if schools thought, they also add on to there needs to be a public announcement, right? And I believe at least two of the school of thoughts, I believe it's Hanbali and the Shafi school, man, said not only do there need to be witnesses, but there also needs to be a public announcement. But it all goes along the same theme, is like you can't keep this secret from everybody. You have to like let people know, which is either through the witnesses or some kind of public announcement that, yeah, we're married, you know?
So a public announcement could be as much as you saying, you know, you could tell some family members or friends, and maybe he did that. Maybe the witnesses were friends or whatever. Yeah. But where you get into the big problem, right? Because, I mean, you might not necessarily know anybody. I mean, do you have to go on social media and post it? Do you have to go to the masjid and, you know, announce it after Jumu'ah? I mean, there's nothing like technically where you have to like send a crier to the four, you know, corners of the city.
Right.
No, I mean, but the thing is, when you are questioned about it, or, you know, you should make it known that you got married, and to hide it is very problematic. So, you know, and we'll get into it, but, you know, the thing is, you showing up to a place with a mask on to meet your wife, right? Yeah. You having to enter and exit through different doors or whatever. This is what people do with women for hire. I mean, like, yeah, I know you're a street woman, so yeah, I'll meet you and I'll pay you, but just, I don't want nobody to know that I was here or that you were here with me or whatever. So yeah, the secret marriage, the problem is because it is extremely dishonorable to the woman and to the man. The man might be able to recover more so, but for a woman to, you know, to, I mean, look at how low the person thinks of you. They don't want to be seen with you. They don't want your faces to even be seen together. They don't want anyone to know that you were anywhere near them. Now, and there's lots of, unfortunately, there's lots of secret marriages. I mean, but the thing is, the misyar marriage, and this is the thing, a lot of secret marriages are misyar marriages, but it's not necessarily mean that just because it's a misyar marriage, it is a secret marriage. If you have a secret marriage, more than likely, it's probably a 99.9% chance it's also a misyar marriage in which you have given up almost all of your rights. But a misyar marriage, lots of them go on and they're not secret. But unfortunately, we have a mixture of the two. We have a misyar marriage that also was a secret marriage, extremely secret marriage until it wasn't.
Yeah, and I want to be, you know, there's comments with the D Kennedy in there, and he's pretty much asking like, why are you guys even talking about this? If you said it's permissible Sharia wise, why even talk about this? Because just because a law puts down guidelines in the Sharia and the rules and regulations for how we're supposed to conduct things. And there's also a purpose for why Allah put things in place. That does not mean that just because you followed the Sharia that you did not actually abuse the Sharia or abuse Islamic standards to take advantage of somebody, right? Because, for instance, if Muhammad Hijab was in a marriage, like people abuse regular marriages, like say this wasn't a secret marriage or whatever, and there was some sort of way that he abused or neglected his wife and did not fulfill his rights, that's also an issue. And you could say, well, he had witnesses and they got married and he paid her mar, they got married legally, so there's no issues here. Why are you guys even talking about it? No, the issues that we're getting into relating to this topic, right? It's not just about like, oh, the scandal and we're going to be like picking apart. It's not about that. We're talking about the lessons that we could learn as Muslims in the Ummah from situations like this, okay? And we talked about this, is like, we have a person who is right, and there's multiple angles for this, but we have a person who is famous, and that fame has given him a certain amount of power, to the fact that a sister in our ummah, saw him out because of his fame. Let's be real. He saw him out because of his fame. And because of that, right, and we can tie this into all types of abuses that happen in our ummah, that she neglected to protect herself or adhere to other Islamic standards or best practices that would protect herself from the situation that she ended up being in, right? And also because of that fame, Muhammad Hijab took certain actions and practices that did not befit, right, the reasons why, right, that we have these standards and practices in Islam. Because, and this is why everybody's kind of getting upset, because we can't look into each person's intent and know exactly what it was, right? But a person that's in his position, right, should know that you should at least do your best to avoid the appearance of being an abusive, transgressing person. Because how it looks for anybody that's looking at all this evidence that's out there is that he pretty much intended, and along those best intentions, intended to treat this lady like a muta marriage, because effectively that is what happened, right? We don't have marriages where we dishonor women and we just use them for one thing and go about our business. No, we can't be a person in dawah. What's the best form of dawah? Our own actions, how we live our life. We can't be out there giving good speeches and saying all these things. I'm the bravado, all this bravado I have. I'm the big tough guy challenging people to fights. I defend Islam. I'm unashamedly Islamic and Muslim, and I'm going to defend everything about Islam because everything we do is on the moral high ground. And then you're in the back doors sneaking in hotels with masks on, right? You're 6'7", Muhammad Hijab. I'm pretty sure, like, oh, that's Muhammad Hijab. Look, he's 6'7", 200 something pounds, walking in, and you're treating this lady like a prostitute. And if you, as someone who's being famous, who's out there representing Islam, we talked about this in our private chats, is that you gave the enemies of Islam so much ammo to work with and potentially mislead people from the straight path.
So let's let's give Muhammad Hijab his due. Let's try to. I hesitate to say defend him, but that's kind of what it's going to sound like. So let's just say it. We'll defend him. Let's look at Muhammad Hijab and his situation. Did Muhammad Hijab want a second wife? Yes, there's nothing wrong with that. Did Muhammad Hijab need a second wife to cook and clean and support him and anything? No. He wanted a physical interaction with another woman besides his wife. Yep. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, you could talk about the wisdom behind it or if it's that smart or whatever, but is he legally allowed to do it? Yes. So that's what he was looking for. And he was not looking for anything but a physical interaction occasionally. As Muslims, that's really not something that we do unless you have a woman who is in a situation or with her own preferences, that's all she wants as well, or that's what she's willing to accept to be with you. So what did Muhammad Hijab want? He just wanted a physical relationship. He didn't want any of the other wifely duties or nothing. He didn't want children with her. He just wanted a physical relationship. So whether you agree or disagree with that, I'm sure every man that he could legally and morally have that type of situation without it having some sort of negative effect on his life, they would do it. I'm sorry, that's just the case. Most of the time, there's just so many other things that are going to be attached to that. Men say it's not worth the trouble. But Muhammad Hijab needed something specific, and that woman then presented that specific scenario and situation for him. She was willing to agree to that, whether she said it was for a short amount of time or, and then he would maybe become like a normal relationship or whatever. But The point is, this is what he was looking for. She met the need that he had. So for Muhammad Hijab, who also is a public figure, even though this is okay for him to do, if the guardian and the young lady agree to a misyar marriage, and a marriage in which she's not going to be, featured prominently or on his arm, and he's, basically they're going to meet up occasionally, and then eventually they would develop into something more. But he found someone that fit that, allegedly, and they got married. So, but for him as a public figure, it might not go over so well in the UK where he's from, So for him to want to not show his face in screenshots or in a Zoom, it's understandable, because he may be thinking, this may be some bad publicity for me, even though it's legal. And so on that hand, at least you can understand his rationale. Now, maybe you might call him a coward. Maybe you say he's weak, but at least you have to understand this may be why he's doing it. Also, I don't know his immigration status, or if he's a citizen. Was he born in the UK? Was he born in Egypt? Then immigrated? Is he on a green card? Does he have? So one of the things that they ask you actually, whenever you have a green card, or whether you're applying for a visa or citizenship or whatever, sometimes they will ask, are you coming to this country to engage in polygamy? They'll ask you that. That's one of the questions on the thing. So maybe his wife, his current wife, or maybe he had to do that. His wife may be from UK. He might be from Egypt, and to get here, he had to be. That could be a question. So he could have legal ramifications for not wanting documentation, and he could have legal ramifications for not wanting, it to be, something public. It could be, for just for his brand, and also legally, like he might be get booted out of the country. For it is possible, so these are some reasons why he could be saying, and it may be why still right now he has never said that he actually married a woman. He's never, he hasn't said he didn't marry her, but he's saying that she's crazy, she's delusional, she's obsessed, all the things, and those are all appear to be true. That she's obsessed with him, and she has some emotional issues or whatever. But for him, if you look at his situation and what issues he possibly could fall into for being, engaged in polygyny, which he's not legally in any trouble in the UK, because he did not go and legally marry her according to their courts. But still, the drama and the pressure and the digging into his life, or when he gets ready to renew his green card, or when maybe his wife gets ready to renew her green card or try to apply for citizenship, it could become a big issue. And so this could be the reasons why he's wanted extreme amount of secrecy when, publicizing the marriage. So is that the smartest thing? Allahu A'lam. But what we do know is that these are things that we have to factor into why he's doing the things that he's doing.
Yeah, and I think even with all that, right? Because as men and as men that know the legal bounds around this type of case, is that how did he handle this once everything broke down? That's really where we're at with the issue, right? Because whether it was smart or not for him, it definitely wasn't smart. For if you knew all these risks, and this is why you're like having 24-hour delete, showing up in mass, not showing yourself on the Zoom and all, because you're worried about whatever these risks are, right? A person of his standing should have stepped back and said, I probably shouldn't get involved in this at all because of the risk associated with it. Whatever. But people make mistakes. Say he did make the mistake and got into it anyway. After the fact, after the sister who feels that she's been scorned and been abused and been transgressed comes out with the story, and now what do you do, right? Now because now it's in the public, eye, and now everybody and their mama's going to be commenting on it, making videos, doing reactions, just like we are, right? And we're trying not to get into like the whole sensationalizing it and all that and making it news stories. We're trying to get lessons from this. Look at how he handled the situation after the fact. And then that's his reactions to this, right? And like you mentioned, the things that he's really not saying, that if he does have a leg to stand on, he could simply squash it by just making one public statement and just telling the truth. And he's avoiding that. But then also, like through third parties and proxies, trying to also defend himself, which if you're looking at this objectively, you're like, okay, the reason why people do this is because there's guilt. There's guilt in this, right? And that's the problem, right? And I know we don't have time to go through all the videos or whatever, but like the one thing, like that the real big one thing that he's not saying I never married that lady. He's alluding to everything that, oh, she's crazy, trying to make his followers, like even the people that that this cult following has, make it believe that she's just some crazy lady and everything she's saying is false. That's what he's saying without saying. But you need to actually come out and say, because I put myself, for any of you guys in this situation, there's some random crazy lady that I was like trying to help find a husband, and whatever happened, she got pissed off at me and she just started going online saying, oh, he married me in the Motel 6 and had a mask on and this and that. The first thing I'm going to say is, I never married that lady and I never met her at a hotel. Ask her to show the receipt to the hotel. Ask her what night it was on. I'll say like, oh, no, I got an alibi. Look, my wife was It'll be very easy to squash. And I don't care what alleged AI text messages or voices she comes out with. Like, I don't care what she says. I know it's not true. But if instead I go and I ask Amr, hey, Amr, I need you to use that, Gemini AI Joan to make me a video and then post it up on your, your private channel and just like make it seem like I'm going to show you a few text messages that kind of make it look like I'm okay and clear and post that. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, they backfired and showed more text messages. Oh, crap. Okay, what are we doing? No, Mubarak, I need you to go on your channel and make a video and defend me. But I'm going to comment on my page like, hey, go check out Mubarak's video. It's all shady, and it just points like Muhammad Hijab. You gotta just come clean.
Yeah, definitely post exposure, post the Bushra's expose, the behind veils video or whatever. He definitely handled it in a way that was not helpful. It definitely was more damaging to him. How he went about it. And I don't think the thing is, we're not doing this show because we're trying to say, well, Muhammad Hijab married the girl, or he did a secret marriage, or it was a miscarriage marriage. Him marrying her is no problem. Them doing a miscarriage marriage is not a problem. The secret marriage is weak and whack, and I stopped short of saying it's haram. But you can't keep a marriage secret. When you're married, you have to let at least the people who need to know that you're married, like people you interact with, the parents, the parents of the person that you married, the family members. Yeah. I mean, these are things that, like, she becomes pregnant, you have a scandal, like she's, and so these are not the issues here. Usually, and what we deal with on this show is a few things. We deal with whether someone in power or authority, or maybe not, but they are abusing someone, taking advantage of someone, a Muslim, using Islam to take advantage financially, physically, socially, spiritually. Mm-hmm. Are those things taking place? And I can say that it looks like that those are things that were happening. Now, was it intentional by Muhammad Hijab? That's between him and Allah. But what it looks like is socially, okay, we can go through all the steps, right? So was she socially abused? Did she get socially abused? Why? I mean, a woman gets married, she can't even be happy. She can't even celebrate with one other person. Even the person she got married to ain't even sticking around and showing up in a mask. I mean, so if that's not social abuse through the use of Islam, then I don't know what is. Yeah. Right. So if you look at it from a financial aspect, I mean, she was getting zero maintenance. Now, if she agreed to that or whatever, now maybe she thought it was a sweetheart deal or whatever. And for her to be, and it does happen where a lot of women, they think or they assume or kind of the man might hint around the fact that, oh, this is just so we can be together. But, you know, I'm going to take care of things. I'm a man, baby. Yeah. And so even though when it came time to do the nikah, the actual contract, maybe it said she waives all rights. Where did the possible financial abuse come into? During the courting process, when he gave her the hint, wink, wink, or whatever, or, you know, hey, I'm a man and I always take care of my business type thing, where she got abused because she fell for it. Now, there were supposed to be people in place to protect her from getting abused, and that is her wali, her father. And if her father, deputized someone to stand in his place, then that's his fault. But there definitely was financial abuse there, because it wasn't a matter of her giving money. She wasn't getting any. She wasn't getting anything. Now, there is one thing that they did mention that I saw that, her father mentioned it in one of the recordings, and she mentioned it several times in the recordings about her daughter and how he was supposed to, you know, be a father and take care of me and my daughter, and you know, me and my daughter is around your neck. Actually, your daughter's maintenance is the responsibility of her own actual father.
Right.
So where's he at? There's no mention of him really, except for, I think Muhammad Hijab might have mentioned him in one of the things, but basically it could be some financial abuse and some social abuse against Muhammad Hijab by trying to force him to be a father for your daughter, because maybe you think that Muhammad Hijab is a better father figure or a more respectable, responsible, or whatever man, and you would rather him have been her father instead of this, so you want to force him to be that father for her. This is wrong. You can't force him to be the father and take care of your child that you had with another man. It's the other man's responsibility. And so this is wrong. Now, we did the social, the financial, the spiritual abuse. Now you can look at the way that in these are like in some of the screenshots and some of the course the videos or whatever. But the way that he's going about, you know, basically, you know, and the thing is, technically, from a technical standpoint, if they agreed to a misyar marriage, he's justified in not giving her anything. But to be using hadith and comparing her to, you know, a slave and these things, I mean, this is because of course he's going to be more versed in Quran and hadith and these things than her probably. And so even that was used to kind of beat her down and kind of, you know, keep her in her place. So there was abuse going on. Now, Muhammad Hijab possibly, I mean, it's not possibly, if you're familiar with his game or you're familiar with how he rolls, he's kind of a bully, you know, with, you know, everybody, you know, and that's probably what attracted her to him. Like, you know, she found that attractive. That's why she pursued him. And so that's the thing. It's a cautionary tale for women. I mean, you want that type of man, well, that's what you're going to get. And so when it came time for a dispute, and when there was a conflict, you know how Muhammad Hijab is going to roll in a conflict. He's going to outword you. He's going to intimidate you. He's going to outtalk you. He's going to flood you with information and anecdotes and all these things. And then you're sitting there dumbfounded and confused. So she got abused. But I wouldn't put it all on Muhammad Hijab. I would put probably a good 75% of the fault on her wali, whoever that person was, whoever was supposed to be representing her. 75% of the fault goes on him, and then probably a good 10% to 15% goes on her, and then the rest of our Muhammad Hijab.
Don't forget the witnesses, because in this conflict, when there's a marriage, you have to step forward and fulfill your role as a witness, because the witnesses want to be secret. The witnesses during this conflict, they could easily step up and say, they could squash this whole thing, right? They could step up and say, yes, they did get married. they did agree or didn't agree to a misyar or whatever, because at the end of the day, when the truth comes out, and you know, Allah knows best, if the truth comes out, the whole truth, we have a lot of the truth, but there's missing pieces of connecting all the dots. When all the dots are connected, I perceive that, or I predict that this is just going to turn into an ugly marital dispute and divorce dispute, because that's essentially what happened. Even if you just claim everything that the sister Bushra is claiming, is that, yeah, you had a bad marriage and you married a bad husband to you at that time, and he divorced you. And like kind of go on like to also talk from the Muhammad Hijab perspective, and we talk about this on our other platform in the man's world, right? If, let's hypothetically say, a man gets into a misyar marriage with a sister, right? He's like, whenever I'm in Morocco, I travel there 2 or 3 times a year. Whenever I'm there, you know, we're gonna be married, but I'm not gonna be able to see you until like those 2 or 3 times a year or whatever. I come and meet you. We have a misyar marriage, whatever. Okay. Then right after we get married, we consummate and have our nights together, and we're officially married. And then I, as a husband, as a man, start getting drifts that, oh, she actually is not cool with this. As soon as we got married, she's kind of reneging on our agreement and wants me to spend a whole year over here. She's wanting me to take care of her kid. I'm not saying this is Muhammad Hijab and Bushra's situation. I'm giving a hypothetical so you can understand what I'm getting at. I would advise myself and my friends, like, hey, you need to end that marriage now because it's only going to get worse. Right? You would say, get out of it while you can, because if you guys agreed to something and she's immediately reneging on what you guys agreed to, that's not a good sign of a fruitful marriage going down the road, right? So you would say, okay, no, you probably need to get out of this before, you guys have kids together, you're entrenched, and you're just going to have like a miserable life, and then you're end up in a divorce anyway, but now there's kids involved and all these different things you have to go through. So on that perspective, that's why Muhammad Hijab, his best, as far as like handling the situation, should just be to just come out and tell the truth, right? But again, going back to the whole situation of why we're running into this, and this is not, we keep saying this is not going to be the first situation. Just watch the video that Amr posted with Sheikh Asim talking about secret marriages. And in the video, he says, I know about a bunch of unfortunately, people, of secret marriages where these men of knowledge and shuyukh have these wives where they temporarily marry a lady for like the summer, and their family benefits because he gives her money, but they don't say it, but they pretty much know at the end of the summer that they're going to divorce them and go back to their home country. These people all know about this. We talked about Yasser Qadi in the beginning, making allusions to it. We have the Muhammad Hijab situation popping off. We have all these. Muhammad Hijab in his previous videos, so much is just confessed to all of this. If you go back to his previous content, whether he was going to get involved in it, was already involved in it, maybe involved with multiple situations, but he at least knows of a bunch of these situations, of these secret marriages. And we have to ask ourselves, as Muslims, part of this ummah, of how do we, one, protect Islam and protect our Muslim brothers and sisters, like what we should be doing when we know about these secret marriages. Yasser Qadi asked the question, what do we do? Is this something that we should expose? What should we do about it? Me personally, just because of the work I've been involved in and the stuff that I've been researching, if you ever find out about a secret marriage, right? People that are married that are keeping it secret, you should go to them and tell them, you guys need to make this known to the public, right? Or Mubarak said, known to the people that need to know about this, right? Whether it's the local imam, the family members, and then if not, in my opinion, I believe that then you take the steps of maybe you just stand up at Jummah one day and say, hey, congratulations to brother so-and-so and sister so-and-so for getting married, and then just walk off.
But you know what? See, this is the thing, and so if we just come full circle and look at what the issue is here, a man getting married to a second, third, or fourth wife is no problem. A misyar marriage, as long as the people involved agree and there's witnesses and it's documented and they're both sound in their intellect and their judgment and they agree to the terms, whatever they are, as long as they're halal, there's no problem in that. The problem is the secrecy of the marriage and who has to know. The wali and the witnesses definitely have to know. So that's at least 3 people. Mm-hmm. Okay. And guess who else has to know? If you're a person with one wife and then you add another, your first wife cannot be in the dark about you having another wife. This is a person who has to know.
Yep.
You know, she has to know because she has to be given the chance, the opportunity to say, hey, you know, I don't know. How is she? Look at the position you're putting that first wife in. You're having relations with someone else who knows what type of medical history. They could have, you know, some STD problems or whatever. There's all types of things that could be at stake. And she might not necessarily want to be involved in that. So you have to tell your wife. You don't have to tell her before you get married. But once you get married, you have to say, hey, yes, I have another wife. Okay, because guess what? Even if you say, oh, it's Miss Yar and the other wife, she's giving up her time or whatever. Any night that you spend with that Miss Yar wife is actually the right of your first wife, unless she knows, hey, I have a co-wife. Now she understands. So you're stealing from her by not telling her, because guess what? What you did is you said you married the other girl, right? You married the other woman and you said you have no rights and no time. So whose time is it? It's your wife's time. Yeah. So to you know, now you could say, okay, the daytime there, I know there's an issue. Okay, daytime is the man's time. Okay. But if you're spending the night, any night, and your wife don't know, you're just telling lies. Oh yeah, I'm working late, I'm working over. I mean, no, you can't do that. Your wife, all of your wives, 1, 2, 3, and 4 have to know who and how many wives you have. Yep. So if a man, and for all these women, if a man, number one, is married to you and they say, yes, I'll marry you, but you can't tell my wife, my other wife can't know, you have to tell her. Or you can't marry him. She has to know. Would you want that to happen to you?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not allowed for you to do that. And so either you tell him, hey, you have to tell him, or I'm going to tell him, or don't marry him. If you're in a situation right now, you're married, you're in a misyar, or maybe you're not in a misyar situation, but you said the only condition is my mate, basically it's when he says my other wife can't know, it's actually what he's saying to you is my actual wife can't know.
Yeah.
You side chick or whatever. But technically, okay, if you all are married, but if you're in a situation where he's saying my other wife or wives cannot know, he's sinful, he's wrong for it, and you're responsible too. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to tell them or tell him, hey, listen, your wives have to know about me. You know, who knows? You know, like I said, you really have to give your wife the opportunity to at least know who else is involved. She might know something about that woman that you don't.
Yeah.
She might be like, hey, she was, you know, doing X, Y, Z and such, you know, so you don't know. And so that's the thing. Anybody involved in a secret marriage, the other wives must know. They have to know. You can't do that.
Yeah. And so we can get to some questions here before we wrap up. We don't have many. I just have a lot of comments from username D Kendi. And thank you for joining the show, and thank you for participating in the chat section. But in regards to like what do we take away when we're gonna cover more aspects of this because there's a lot of stuff to cover. We just hit the tip of the iceberg trying to give a brief overview before we kind of drill down into some important lessons. But right now, what do we want our viewers to take away from and to learn from as this situation keeps unfolding? Like, what would you guys say is like the lessons so far, the main lessons, the main points, and what to keep in their minds as the stuff kind of rolls out?
Absolutely. I would say, and this is just mostly for the women, if you are approached for a misyar or to be a secret second wife, or if you're non-Muslim and he wants you to be his side piece girlfriend or whatever, right? And you're thinking in your head, hey, listen, after he spends enough time with me, all right, after I fulfill his needs, he will eventually want to fulfill mine. That's not how it works. Once his needs are fulfilled, he has no obligation to you whatsoever. All right. I know a bunch of non-Muslim women who are either a side piece or the second girlfriend or whatever, and they believe, listen, this man's going to leave his wife for me, or if you're Muslim and he's going to marry me and have it be his second wife. That's not how it works. Typically, they're not going to leave their wife for you. You're feeling a desire they may have outside of the home, which their wife currently isn't fulfilling. But once she fulfills his needs, he no longer has a need for you, right? And he's like, why would I get with you when later on you can do the same thing to me? I will avoid this issue entirely. So if you're a girl, any age, and because you may think, okay, listen, this person right here, he has a lot going on. He has status. He has, and psychology tells you that women will often forego all common sense for money, right? This is why they tell you that women are naturally gold diggers. So when they're looking to get married or to find a partner, hey, I picked the person that has the most money for me because I believe this will possibly be beneficial for myself and my offspring. That's the natural inclination of women, right? Do not let that gold chasing overtake your common sense. He's secretly marrying you for a reason. He's not going to fall in love with you. He's not in love with you now. And listen, your intimacy is great, but it's not that important in the grand scheme of things. So once that intimacy has gone out the window and he has a clear head, he's gotten through his desires, he no longer you don't have a purpose for him. He sees you as only this. So for the sister, what's her name? Aisha Fulana. Anyway, for her, right, you're agreeing to it entirely is crazy because it's not like the sister here was forced. At the end of the day, she did agree to be married to this brother. She agreed to it, and certain things could have been handled better, yes. But at the end of the day, sister, you agreed to handle this, and she's not some kid. She has a kid who's like 12 years old, according to Agdawa. So you are a grown-up woman to understand, have your full frontal lobe developed to understand, this is probably not a good idea. I should have better respect for myself as a woman, where I should deserve better. Right? I should deserve better to, hey, I want to be announced as your second wife. I want to be the second wife of Muhammad Hijab. I want to be the first wife of someone else. I shouldn't be the back burner where he has me low and slow on the smoker for 14 hours and no one sees me. That shouldn't be your goal to be as a wife. You should want more for yourself.
Yeah. I would say I'm gonna let Mubarak end on this because he's really good at summarizing and giving like the final points and stuff to look out for. But what comes to my mind right now is there's a quote by Abu Bakr, and it's a famous quote where he makes a dua. He says, "Oh Allah, you know me better than I know myself, and I know myself better than these people who praise me. Make me better than what they think of me, and forgive those sins of mine of which they have no knowledge, and do not hold me responsible for what they say." And this is if you're in any person at any level that's in like the limelight or has some kind of fame or notoriety or whatever, these are kind of like words to kind of like live by. And for the people that look up to these individuals, you should take heed of this too, because we have Abu Bakr, the best person after a prophet, right, of human beings. And people would praise him. He's famous, right? He's got all the accolades and people are praising him every day. And he's saying, I'm not as good as they say I am, right? I know myself. I know I have faults. I know I have mistakes. And if you're in a position of being the famous person or the person that people are praising and looking up to, you have to do your best and you're going to fall short, but do your best to be the best, right? You can't be one person in on screen and be another person behind the scenes. Okay? You got to try your best. That's what integrity is, right? Integrity is doing the right thing when nobody's watching, right? So we have to do that. And the people that are looking up to these individuals, we have to recognize that although we like how they speak, although we like their knowledge, we praise them for all the good that they do and dawah and all these different things. We have to recognize that these are mere human beings. They make mistakes. And sometimes, a lot of times, their personal behavior behind the scenes doesn't always match up with the character that they're playing on the screen in the limelight. So you have to notice that. And then whenever, as people that are in these limelight or in these positions, right, being in these positions of power, authority, fame, or whatever, it's like a double-edged sword, right? It's a test. It definitely is a test. But also within that test, you could use that to actually use it as a protection for yourself if you take the right perspective. Because like me, like we're not famous at all, but we do our work, like particularly with the cult of TMOA, right? And I know for me, when I decided to start speaking out, I know one of the controls I have for not falling into a lot of the mistakes that I used to fall into, I'm like, I'm not giving them nothing to say. No. So like, it's like a protection. Like, okay, I got to make sure I'm not doing this no more. I'm not doing that no more because I don't want to take them to use it as a way to take away from my message. So like people like Muhammad Hijab, who you're on the front lines of dealing with these enemies of Islam, these atheists, these Christians, these people that are attacking Islam every single day. You got to be like, you know what? I'm not going to put myself, I'm going to do my best not to put myself in a position where they can discredit everything that I say. Okay. So, and we'll get more into that as we cover more shows, because really a lot of the stuff that gets down to like our type of content happens after the incident, really like the response, the gaslighting, the religious manipulation. I mean, Ali Dalla was up here comparing this lady to Zionists bombing people in Gaza. Like it's kind of really kind of sick actually, but that's what I got to say right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say to kind of bring it full circle. Number one, the marriage cannot be secret from the people who need to know. The other wives need to know. The parents need to know. The family needs to know. And the people who deal with them on a regular basis need to know. But definitely, if you are a co-wife in a situation, then your co-wife needs to know that you're married to her husband as well. But in going a step further, the biggest letdown in this whole thing, whoever the wali was, whoever was the person who gave this woman over to Muhammad Hijab, is really the biggest person at fault, because it's his job to not just rubber stamp the marriage, but to actually make sure that this woman understands completely what she's getting into. He has to make sure, now, you're marrying this brother, and this is what he's saying, that he's not able or not going to provide or will provide, especially when you have a non-standard nikah where it's a misyar and you have some giving up of rights. The wali is so important, that guardian is so important, to make sure that he explains to her and make sure, hey, listen, and he's supposed to be the one who's supposed to be negotiating and nailing down the terms with the groom, not the bride. It's not her job to be in there, going back and forth and negotiating and battling or whatever on what's going to be provided and not. So the wali, whoever he is, whoever you are, brother, you are a sad sack of, you need to repent to Allah, because any harm that came to this sister due to your negligence. Now, maybe he could have been a new shahada. He might have just got married. He doesn't know. He's just a friend of, the groom. And a lot of times that happens. But, if you're a person who knows, and even if you didn't, that's one of the things, if you don't know what you're doing, you have no business doing it. If you've never been a guardian for a woman before, if you don't know what it takes, you shouldn't have been there, because all of this would have been prevented, the misunderstanding. Because even if we just said Muhammad Hijab understood it one way and she understood something else, they got married or whatever, the misunderstanding probably could have been avoided by you just being competent and saying, hey, listen, you have to understand that when you agree to this marriage, you're not going to ever have any rights to time, maintenance, even respect. Seems like this is what you're agreeing to. And for the women, you have to know, you have to understand, don't fall for the delusion of thinking that you're going to get more than what you bargained for before the marriage. It's very rare. Usually you get less, but to think, well, I'll just get in, and then once I'm in the marriage, then I'm going to, get all the things that I want, need, and desire, and have this fairy tale situation. It won't happen. So that's what I would say about that. Now, to just wrap up, to make it very clear, at the end of the day, and I have one other question. I just have a question for you guys, and I'll say that as far as if we look at what did take place, the missionary marriage, the secret marriage, the disagreement on what was and wasn't supposed to be provided, I fall in the camp of where it becoming a scandal, and getting out in the open and happening like this. What Bushra, Aisha, what she did was wrong, because at the end of the day, what happened to her was she said she got sick. It's not like she's saying that Muhammad Hijab owes her money, or it's not like she's saying that they had a child and he's refusing to accept paternity. It's just her feelings are hurt, and she wants people to know that he married her. Okay, so what? If you're not married to him anymore, you obviously feel like he's not the person that you thought you were getting married to. So you could have just been like, "Khalas, I'm out." So what is it benefiting you except for your pride, your ego, your feelings to say, "Hey, I was married to Muhammad Hijab and I put him out. Yeah, I outed him as XYZ." I mean, it's out there, so it's there in the public, and we should warn other women from falling into this situation with some of these celebrities where they're, Muhammad Hijab said it out of his own mouth. He said he knows that 85% of the du'at and the celebrity shuyukh people that he knows, 85% of them are in these polygamous, situations. He said it out of his own mouth. And this was before this came to light. But as far as her personally, if this was my sister or my daughter or someone, may Allah forbid, I don't know that I would ever allow that type of situation to happen. But if it were to happen, and she said, well, XYZ, this would happen, and I'm going to go and expose him. No, what? He doesn't owe you any money. He doesn't owe you anything. Really, he humiliated her privately, and then she humiliated herself publicly and dragged him. It's almost like she threw a grenade and they blew up together.
And here's the thing, and I don't want to get too much into because she is a victim in this situation, right? But at the same time, there's nuance to what a victim is, and this is why, when we were trying to communicate with, or at least I was trying to communicate to the people that brought her story forward, the Behind Veils website and the people that are running that, is when you're in this game of, let's say, exposing falsehood, exposing transgression, this is the realm that we're kind of in, like especially our channel, right? With Sufi cults and all that. We run into this stuff all the time. And alhamdulillah, Allah has kind of like, when you're just starting from scratch, you're going to make mistakes along the way, and you got to learn from them and you got to get better. But this is something that they can learn from, because there are going to be people that may be legitimately wronged by somebody, but it's not necessarily a case that is like, okay, this is a case of like abuse in the Ummah, right? Not every marital dispute is something that like, okay, we need to bring the light, we need to expose them. Just because the person involved is famous does not necessarily mean like, okay, this is now, say there was a situation where like, okay, this is like the 4th or 5th girl that Muhammad Hijab has done this to. Okay, we need to bring, this is something going on. Because like I said, right now, like you, and I agree with you 100%, this is a case that, and again, if we go back to so far, unless I missed it, what is it that Bushra actually wants? Right? Because when you have a case, right, where someone's transgressed you or oppressed you, you're like, okay, I need this person to pay for what they did, whether it's like financially, give me back my rights or something. There has to be some kind of compensation or something like that along those lines, right? Whether, okay, you need to spend 2 days in jail, like whatever the crime is there a crime, right? If there is a crime, what are you seeking out of bringing it out to the open, right? Because are you seeking that, like, maybe, because I haven't heard it in the stuff that's put out there. Are you saying I want to put it out there just because I want to warn other women about this, right? Which could have been done in a whole totally different manner, right? But I don't want to nitpick. But you're absolutely right. I believe this is one of those cases where if we received the case, we would have, consoled the sister and tried our best to kind of help her out through her situation and rectify the situation. But as far as going out there and exposing somebody because they're famous, because this is something that's clearly, in my opinion anyway, clearly, like, what I actually want on this is for him to suffer like I suffered or even worse. Exactly. And that's the type of stuff us who are in this game, who are trying to advocate for victims and help protect the Ummah, we actually have to stay away from that. Yeah. Because it quickly will get off the rails and it'll actually discredit the work you're actually doing.
Yeah, and that's why I say my question is, do you think that she's justified in her actions? Did she do the right thing by going about it the way that she did?
I would say so hindsight's 2020. So if the sister's watching, I hope she forgives me for this, whatever, but she's definitely not justified. But going through like what I have gone through, what I've seen other people gone through, and this is the real problem. This is why our channel's here, and even behind the veils that they're doing work. This is why these types of sources are popping up, is because especially for Muslims in the West, there is no venue to try to seek justice in these things, right? So I get it. We understand. She went through, from what we can see, all these different means to, like, I want someone to hear me, someone to do something, like talk to me, talk to him, oversee our situation. And from what it sounds like, everybody was like, yeah, I'm not getting involved. I'm not dealing with it. I'm not doing nothing. And so what happens is the person who's been wronged in a situation starts to feel helpless, right? And that helplessness turns into vengeance. And like, how do you've seen some of the stuff that she was saying. It's like, yeah, she kind of like, no, I'm gonna. There's that clip of I don't want to make a joke, but the clip of Denzel Washington's like, I'm leaving here with something. I'm leaving with something. Like, she's like, I'm gonna get a piece of him. I need to get a piece of him, right? And so we get it. I understand that journey of, you want someone to hear your voice and you want to get some kind of feeling of justice. However, it's not going to turn out, when you go this route, it's actually not going to get you what you want. And women really have to think about, especially women, really have to think about this, because you tried to go out anonymously. And we get that, because women, like, there's going to be a stigma associated, like, oh, yeah, that's the sister that just got the one night stand by Muhammad Hijab. I'm not marrying her. You have to live with that stigma, right? And that's why you wanted to come out anonymously, because you wanted to protect your honor and all this different stuff. But that didn't happen, because you very quickly, your real name got out there. People knew you. People put you out there. You actually, and it's unfortunate to say, women really have to consider this when they're actually going to seek justice, and about this whole idea of, I'm going to publicly expose this person. And a lot of women who think this through actually decide not to say anything, because at the end of the day, and it's a very, very sad scenario, is that no matter what, even after you report out on this, you are going to suffer even more. And you're going to get more of the consequences than the actual person who offended you. I'm doing a whole dissertation on sexual abuse. Like, people actually, not marriage or nothing. They're just really just abused, sexually molested, kids and all that. And guess what? The victim suffers more even after they expose the person, and the offender, especially in our Ummah, right? Because we have no checks and balances. They go about and they just keep continuing and live their lives and giving dawah and being these da'is online and all. They just continue. And it's like a blip on the radar. So you really have to consider that when you're like, I'm going to go expose this person. And the people, again, hopefully we can learn from this. The people that are behind the veils and do it. Hopefully you guys can learn from this just like we're learning, but you guys can learn from it too. You have to really think about the victim in these situations. And even though you might have the juiciest case that's going to like expose all these different things, sometimes it's in the best interest of the victim to say, hey, we're not going to go public with this. We're going to deal with it all behind the scenes, because not because we want to protect this offender, because we want to protect you. So,
I mean,
and so just to, and you know, and I don't want to pile on the young lady, but most likely it's going to be Muhammad Hijab probably can get married again, secretly, misyarly, or standardly again, you know, probably anytime he wants, and much easier and smoother. This was pretty much probably going to blow over for him as far as his marriage prospects. But for this young lady, I mean, who would even, like, after this, you know, who's going to marry her? I don't know, but probably somebody, maybe, hopefully, inshallah, she finds a good husband that's going to be good for her. But the likelihood that, or the struggle for it is definitely there. But if we look at the quote that she said, you know, why she's asking for mubahala, right?
Yeah.
She's asking for mubahala to basically to swear and put a curse upon the other person, whoever's lying about this. And look at her quote as far as why she's doing it. I'm not asking for mubahala to prove a marriage happened. Marriage and divorce are not crimes. I'm asking for mubahala to prove the divorce happened because of him and the shocking new conditions he gave me. Ma'am, no one knew you were married anyway. Mm-hmm. It was a secret. So no one knew you were married. So why would you need this? Like, I could see if you were a public figure and you got divorced and people are like, man, why did she get divorced? Well, maybe he's saying, oh, she was this and that. There's no he said, she said. No one knew you were married. Why do you need to prove a divorce happened? Did you get divorced? Yes. Yeah, okay, go about your business. Yeah. You know, so this was, you know, her representation has failed her, because they should have been like, you know what, sit down. You know, they should have stopped her from getting in a situation in the first place. But to go on with this is just not, you know, he told me he just wanted a few hours in a hotel, no home, no kids, no support, nothing but sex. He said he didn't have any family in the country. I didn't have any family in the country to question it. And this is what single mothers are looking for. He said this was halal, and why I'm calling for mubahala, to stand before Allah and declare the truth of what really happened. Like, you brought this situation to light. It's not like anyone's was questioning your character before you did this. She could
have just like, okay, Muhammad Hijab's a dirtbag or whatever. And you could have just found a new husband, and no one would ever knew that you were married.
But you know, the thing is, and I'll just say this: the silver lining to it. Okay, she made a mistake. You know, the wali, her guardian, made a mistake. The whole situation was a fiasco. It was a disaster. You can say Muhammad Hijab is, you know, kind of weak, or he did that. Legally, they got married, and legally, they got divorced. But she shouldn't have come out and really said anything as far if it was just about her. Now, the benefit that came out of this is that it brought light to a shady situation that unfortunately is going on in the Ummah, and that is people who are, you know, semi-famous or famous. Some of these people are celebrities that have millions of followers, and they are able to, you know, with using Islam and their, you know, their fame and their piety as a weapon to marry these women under these conditions, where they think, and in their mind they're thinking and hoping that there's going to be something more. Why? Because the brother is so pious and he's, you know, he's so God-fearing. Of course he's going to take care of me like a real man would. Look at all the lectures he gives on the topic. Look at all the things he does. So this is something that's happening. There's lots of women that are in these secret marriages. Like we started the show with Yasser al-Qadi. I'm not saying Yasser al-Qadi is in a secret marriage. What I'm saying is that he mentioned that out of the blue. That was not part of the topic at all. It came out of nowhere. Why? because he most likely knows that these secret marriages are prevalent and they are an issue, and it probably was going to come to light, the fact that there was a secret marriage in that situation. We have anecdotes from other celebrities that say this thing is rampant. Mm-hmm. And it brings to light the issue more, so that the women who keep either falling victim to this or are currently being victimized by these secret marriages can at least get some attention on that and really make a decision on what they should do. So that's the benefit. Muhammad Hijab is not right. Bushra, Aisha is definitely not right. But the benefit comes where we bring this thing to light. We let people know what they should do. Right? You need to tell your co-wife that you're married to her husband. You and her share a husband equally, or, you and her are both married to the same man, whatever the terms are. You need to know the terms. And the other wives need to know the terms of the marriage so they don't transgress your rights. Yep. Because they might be saying, hey, you need to be this, or I was waiting for you, whatever, and you weren't here. Why? Because he's over there, So even if you have, sometimes it's not complete where you don't have no rights. Maybe it's just I'll just spend time with you on the weekends, whatever. So the wife is waiting around for her husband on Saturday night, and he's over there, hanging out. So all these things need to be said. But so that's a silver lining. So these women, the current wife who's already married to the man, who doesn't know her husband is running around getting second, third, fourth wife, and those additional wives who are coming in, they need to know. So that's the benefit of it. So that it came out to light that we can hopefully solve this problem, and we don't have any of these secret marriages anymore in the Ummah. But Allah knows best.
Yeah. And I think what you just said kind of covers the questions that brother D Kennedy had posted in our chat. And again, like he had mentioned, like why you guys even talking about it? Why you guys keep saying allegedly and this that we say allegedly. We are explaining why we're talking about it. One, it's already public and it needs to be talked about because we have to learn from the situation. Why do we say allegedly? Because we don't, even with all the truth, or all the evidence that's out there, we don't know the exact truth of what happened. All we know is what the evidence that's out there in each side's story, right? We know what's being said and we know what's not being said, but we still have to cover the topic because it's polarizing and it's catching the attention of the Ummah, and it's a perfect time for people in our Ummah to learn from these situations. We'll see what else we have in here. He said, why Abdul Rahman Tariq said, why is no one pointing out that she was seeking help from DW, APUS, and Samar? I think so. Those are the Christian, the people that attack Islam. Like, why is nobody pointing out that she was seeking help from them?
We'll cover that in a different show, probably.
What's that?
So we'll probably cover that in like the episode show.
We'll cover it. I can answer real quickly. Because it's actually irrelevant.
Exactly.
It's actually irrelevant to the situation. But we'll get into that more details. Tune into our next show. We're going to talk about that. But it's actually irrelevant. What else did we have here? Didn't you see what she wrote on X as well? Irrelevant. She said she was on the verge of apostasy. Irrelevant. Look what she said to David. See, all these. So about her, we kind of talked about this. Maybe Abdul Rahman turned in late, but when people get in a situation where they feel helpless, unfortunately, and we talked about this at the beginning of the show before Mubarak got on, is that the reason why we're covering this topic and other topics is because these types of situations lead to people leaving Islam. So her seeking help from non-Muslims, enemies of Islam, having doubts about Islam and all these different things. Why? Because we can see a clear narrative here, right? Based off of the things that she allegedly said in these text messages. I thought of him as like a god almost, right? I thought of him like, as Ali Dawa said that she said, I thought of him like Abu Bakr. It was clear that she highly integrated her perceptions of Muhammad Hijab, this famous speaker, with Islam itself. His personality with Islam. And because she was scorned or felt abused or oppressed or transgressed by this person that she highly associates with Islam itself, of course, now she's going to have doubts. And this is why we're talking about this stuff, because we have to, for victims and people that aren't victims yet, we have to let them know, like, no individual besides Rasulullah is the pure representation of Islam. So when you get attached to these personalities, and then something happens where your expectations of them drop, it should not affect your Islam. But unfortunately, this is what it does. And this is a natural reaction of people that, one, lack knowledge, maybe are lower on iman, right? And they get oppressed, they get transgressed. They start that's what Shaitan's goal is ultimately, Shaitan doesn't care if this scandal gets, I'm ranting and we run out of time, my bad. Shaitan doesn't care about what happens actually with this whole situation. Shaitan wants at least some people to abandon Islam because of this, whether it's the victim in this situation, or Bushra, the wife, whether it's Muhammad Hijab, or whether it's any of us who are watching the situation, or someone that's saying, hey, someone that might be considering becoming Muslim because of, like, they watched one of Muhammad Hijab's videos, and Shaitan's like, oh, you're into Muhammad Hijab, huh? Okay, I got you. And now they see this scandal coming, like, I ain't becoming Muslim. This is how. That's Shaitan's goal, right? So her having doubts and saying some weird stuff, or connecting with people that she thought she may be able to get help from, this is what we're trying to protect our people from. This guy, he said, I need a Miss Yar marriage too. But I don't think we have any other questions. One person asked, do we have proof that she said what? We're not here to prove anybody's case. That's up for Muhammad Hijab and Bushra. Oh, you're muted, Mubarak. Go ahead.
You see muted.
What she said, that quote that I was reading from, that's on the behindveils.com thing where it lays out. She said the reason why she's asking for mubahala, which is, it's ridiculous. You just didn't need to say anything. You didn't need to say anything. Now, if she would have said the reason why I'm saying this because I don't want any other women to be hurt by him or anyone like him that's going to do this, then we could be like, all right, we understand. But to just say you want everybody to know that a divorce happened, it's like, I want everybody. It's almost like you still want to be attached to Muhammad Hijab. Like, I want everybody to know that I got divorced from him. Like, I can see if he was like, I want everybody to know that I am still married to him. Okay, it's a little understandable, but to want everybody to know that you're divorced from him, I'm sorry, but who cares? Now, if there's a problem, like if you see him as an issue, as a problem, and others like him, then all right. And I think that's kind of what the position we're taking on why we're covering it, so that we can bring awareness and help people stop doing it. But as far as her, yeah, it's like, nah, she ain't got nothing to stand on, really.
It just so people, this will be the last thing I say, I promise, Amr. just to talk about this Mubahala thing. I don't know how many times through our work this Mubahala thing has come up, like so many times, right? But just to like educate people, typically Muslims don't try to get other Muslims in Mubahalas. Right? We don't. That's not something we should be doing. To like, hey, oh, you say I'm lying, you're lying. Let's do a mubahala. That's not really what we should be doing as Muslims, because we don't want ourselves or another Muslim to be cursed. Okay, right? This should only be done in like real extreme situations, like situations like adultery. Like there's where both parties swear they did it or didn't do it. Not just because someone's saying, someone's calling me a liar, so let's do mubahala. And it doesn't work that way. We shouldn't be doing that.
Who's this guy? Moss and Mallow says Islam is a man's club. It's a men club. Only the people who is ignorant about Islam would think that. Sometimes you think, man, everything is, in a woman's favor, and other times you would think everything is in a man's favor. But what Allah is a witness, it's right down the middle. It is right down the middle. There's no one who is at an advantage or the other in Islam, and that's a show for another day. If you bring up the topic on another show earlier in the show, then we can run down many of the examples of how it's men are in charge. But does that mean that it's a man's club? I would say Women have lots of power, lots of advantages, lots of benefits, lots of perks in Islam. You might even say that they have more than men do. Now, men have their things, women have their things, and so it evens out. But no one's oppressed.
If you're gonna say Islam is a men's club, and if you want to point out any other religion in the world, then you're going to be saying far much worse about those religions, because Islam gives the most rights to women, the most protections to women than any other religion in the world. So,
yeah. I mean. All right, Jazakallah khair for your insights. Always beneficial. We went a little over. I want to close with this though, just for any women or man in the future, right? If you're going to have an issue that arises that personally hurts you, and I get like when things hurt someone, right? It's personal, it's deep. So you're not able to think far side. You're not able to think long term about how this may affect those going forward, right? And so what's going to happen with women who come forward with these allegations against these brothers, based off of how this sister handled it, you're going to automatically be discredited because of she first came out, wouldn't give her name, but she was ready to go to the legal courts of London and have a mubahala, but could not say her name. So this is like, okay, you're willing to go this far, but not sure who you actually are. And for the brother side, right? If something happens to come out against you, Muhammad Hijab, you are a big, strong man, not afraid of a soul. You posted a video response to this on a side profile using AI, not your own voice. It wasn't your own voice, big, strong man. If an allegation came against me, Amr, it's not going to be my personal YouTube channel where I just watch videos on. I will come like a man on this platform, go live and say, I did not do this. This is what happened to me. This is what happened to her. I do know her. I can't say I don't know her. Yeah, because from what I have seen, this man has not said one time, I have never been married to this girl. I haven't seen it. Maybe I'm just missing the point here. Maybe I missed a few videos here and there, but he has not denied categorically that he was married to Bushra, that he was married to Aisha. He said she's crazy. What girls aren't crazy? Huzzah. Now, brother, you're going to hurt other brothers who are in a similar position as you going forward, because the enemies of Islam are going to say, just like that brother said, oh, this is a man's club. Oh, he's trying to have legal prostitution. He's trying to have legal adultery. You're going to harm those people going forward. So, like, if people think about these things just a little bit, how will this affect every Muslim going forward? It's just like when you're at your job or in public somewhere, you are representing Islam, right? You are always representing Islam as a Muslim. So if people say, this brother here, I can go give him hugs. And at work, he hugs all the girls. You know that as a Muslim man, you can't give girls hugs who aren't related to you, not mahrams, not at all. But what's going to happen is after you leave that job, some Muslim guy comes in and she's hugging. Like, I don't hug girls. That's not what I do. That's not what I do. Like, no. So-and-so, he was Muslim too. He did that. That's not how it works, though. That's not how Islam works. All right. Maybe in Lahut Lamakan, you can get away with these things. But in the real world, that does not fly. All right. So we need to be steadfast in our religion. We need to think about our brothers and sisters and how they'll be affected by our actions. Right? Especially if you are a big public figure in Islam. Muhammad Hijab has 1.3 million subs on YouTube. He has a bunch of more on Twitter, Instagram, all the place. So what happens to you is going to affect Islam as a whole, unfortunately.
Yeah, you gotta hold your.
Oh wow. Hold up. I think we got another report. I'm not gonna say this guy's name because I don't know if this is true. We gotta verify this, but they're saying a celebrity Shuyukh had a miscarriage marriage. He didn't do what he said he was gonna do. The woman says she promised that he was gonna go to Lahut Lamakan with her, but when it was in Pakistan, he refused to go.
Crazy.
I'm looking at the comments like, what do you mean?
I knew he was going there. The shot was off the backboard. Right?
Yeah, he was like, he promised me a honeymoon. I could go wherever I want. But when I chose Lahut Lamakan, he was like, no.
He said, listen, girl.
Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Yeah. Listen.
Anywhere but Lahut Lamakan. Anyway, okay.
Lamakan, girl, I got you with a gift shop. All right, visit. All right.
We're gonna continue talking about this at least for a couple more weeks. Tune in Thursday nights. We'll be live talking about it. We're gonna get this is a brief overview. We're gonna actually focus on a more specific issue in our next upcoming shows that we could learn from and benefit from as Muslims in our ummah. Again, we're not trying to, and no one should be doing this. And just my final advice to and maybe we'll do a show on this, but to the people that are promoting Aisha / Bushra and putting her story out there and trying to advocate for her, and I get your intent. You're trying to help. You're trying to be a source to help people that are being oppressed or transgressed by leaders and figures in our ummah. I get that, but you have to be very careful about what cases you bring forward to the light, how you bring them forward to the light, and the face and what's representing that, because you have to take a lot of steps to make sure that you become a credible source when presenting these cases, because even if you do have a real legit case that needs to be brought forward to the public, if you already became a place that is known
TMZ,
that's TMZ, that you just like are reporting everything. Like, I'm looking at you. If you look at some of the people they have on there, some of them are literally like, "Oh, he didn't answer my phone call, so he's a bad leader." And it's like, you discredit yourself, and you're gonna discredit the people that you're actually trying to help. So you have to, try to learn from your mistakes, try to do better in the future, inshallah. And maybe inshallah we'll all do better going forward.
Ameen. Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Waalaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Lahut Lamakan, still in Pakistan. Still in Pakistan.
And I'm sure that demon that Avi's still in there is going to stay there.